Hello students, this is going to be a really quick short video, but I just wanted to take a moment to discuss relative extrema. There is something called relative as well as absolute extrema. When I think about relative extrema, I'm thinking about a neighborhood. So if you think about your relationship with your family, when you say your relatives, we tend to think about relatives having multiple relatives, right? There you got your mom, dad, your brother, sister, your grandma, your grandpa, your aunties, your uncles. You know, there's a long list of relatives that you have. So I'm thinking about a neighborhood on a graph, and I'm going in certain portions of that graph, and I'm saying, is there something that appears to be a relative minimum in this neighborhood of the graph? That means that I can have multiple values that are listed down as a relative minimum or a relative maximum. But when I start talking about absolute, like absolute minimums, absolute maximums, it is the smallest or the largest maximum out of all of your relative values. And so for these values, you tend to only have one value. So I'm going to show you what I mean. If I kind of make this, and hopefully you can see it on your screen, but I make this yellow box. This represents a neighborhood on the graph. And if I were to look at the points that are listed, there's 2 pink points. I could call this value right here a relative max, because in this neighborhood, in this yellow box, it is a high point. And in this yellow box, this pink point at the bottom is a low point. So I could call this one a relative min. And if I go to the next point, this seems like a high point, so I'd call that a relative max. Here's another high point. But the rest of my points all seem like lower points. And so you can see, again, I have multiple maximums and I have multiple minimums based on their neighborhoods. But then if I wanted to circle, and I'll do this, I'll do this in purple. I wanted to circle the absolute maximum. So what is the highest point on that graph? That is right here. So not only is this a relative max, but it's also my absolute max. And if I wanted to circle the smallest graph, or the smallest point on this graph, I could circle this, because that is the smallest value that is labeled as my absolute minimum. And you may be saying, well, this graph is going lower. I see the arrow going down. How do I not know, or how do I know that it doesn't get even smaller? Well, it probably does. It might, from what I can see, but I'm focused on the points that are actually listed. So how do you provide your answers if you're asked about relative extrema? Some people will only list out the y values, but I tend to write the coordinates. So if I was going to write, you know, the coordinate value of my absolute max, or if I was going to write the answer for absolute min, I'd give a coordinate value for that value I've identified as the absolute min. Okay? As always, I hope this video was helpful. If you have questions or concerns, please don't hesitate to reach out.